Thank you to our sponsor, EJ Cards, a small but motivated company specializing in cards. EJ Cards believe passionately in great bargains and excellent service, which is why they commit themselves to give you the best of both. If you're looking for something new, you're in the right place. EJ Cards strive to be industrious and innovative, offering customers something they want, putting their desires at the top of the priority list. Find EJ Cards at www.ejcards.com.au or shop 394 to 398 Middleborough Road, Blackburn, Victoria, and also find them on Facebook. Thank you very much, EJ Cards, for sponsoring us.
Welcome, everybody, to episode number 49, almost the big 50, of the You Can't Comp This NBA Trading Card Podcast. We are your hosts, Adam, Amy, and Russell Gibson, back together again after I had a lovely week off.
Yeah.
Russell, you had a good week last week with our friends at Mercury.
Yeah, it was a fun episode, and it's always good to talk to people who are out there doing something interesting, you know. So
it was very interesting. I actually I did tune in after a lovely weekend at the Penny Arcade Expo, which is all gaming, and I saw our friends Cherry there actually. And
did you congratulate them on being Card Store of the Year?
I tried to. Grayson reminded me about it before I could even congratulate.
Did he really?
Yeah, he was busy. I've been busy in Vegas. Yeah, it was very. I'm like, oh, really? Did you get an award or something? And just...
Had he made himself like a badge that said, "I'm the Card Store Owner of the Year" or something like that? Like,
yeah, I'm sure. I'm surprised he didn't actually have the trophy with them. But him and Charlie have agreed in some way, shape, or form that someone from Cherry will be joining us again at some point on the pod.
Yeah.
Or we may venture onto the Cherry pod one
cool.
way or the other.
Yeah. I mean,
their brains were jelly. It was the end of PAX. It was a busy weekend.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking forward to another collab with the guys.
I'm
at Cherry.
not going onto their podcast unless Grayson gets a tattoo that says, "I'm the Card Store Owner of the Year." And it could be on his knuckles. Yep. Even if it's on his knuckles, that's totally fine.
Oh, that'll be that's that. Oh, you're going to give the man ideas. You are going to give the man ideas.
That's fine. That's my ultimatum, Grayson. If you are listening, we're not coming onto your show until you get some ink.
I feel that like either Dale, Blake, or Charlie will be joining us on this podcast before that happens. But you never know. You never know.
Anyway, in all seriousness, congratulations. It's it's an insane award, and also I wonder how they even pick it out from all the shops in the world. So either way, congratulations. It's just it's a massive deal.
Yeah.
Let's recap.
Anyway, back to your guests from last week.
Back to us. Let's talk about us. Let's not worry about Cherry. So Mercury.com came on and had a chat to us. What were your thoughts about last week's episode, Ad?
It was good. I know, obviously, after discussions off air that you had a few dramas with the audio, but I didn't notice any problems. I thought it was a really informative episode. I like the product they've come up with, or the concept at least.
Yeah.
Like I've seen them a couple of times now at the Hobby Hangout, and look, I'll be a lot bigger fan once I win that Kobe, because I'll be signing up for an account.
Ditto.
But the takeaway I got is, look, I'm not sure where their marketing is at, but they need to get a lot of, basically they just need to sign as many people as they can up to getting those free accounts so that they've got the users looking at the marketplace.
I 100% agree with that. They need to get that sort of market base in, and maybe I should have pushed him a little bit more on that sort of how do people operate on your page in that sort of free space, because if you sort of think about Facebook pages, I think that is some way the beauty of it is that you can go on and off anytime you want. It's 100% free.
Yeah.
And I think we've spoken about this a little bit in the past before, like with the DNF page. That's the other reason why people go on there too. It's for free entertainment. It's like the day that you've got, no money for breaks or you've got no money for singles, you can always go into DNF and be somehow, interacting with other card nerds. So I think,
like
are they missing that spot somehow with not sort of embracing the free accounts. Like,
Yeah, look, and any startup business does need to obviously generate sales. Like we're not saying everybody just go out and create a free account, don't worry about the paid stuff. But even if you don't intend to sell, go and create an account. Like check out what their marketplace has got to offer. You don't need to use all of their features, but in order to interact with one another, people will need to sign up.
yeah, and to further that point, I think not everyone's going to be a buyer, not everyone's going to be a seller. So if you're only going to be a buyer, do you really need to have a paid account?
Correct.
Because without the buyers, you don't have the sellers. So um, I think, yeah, how they sort of work that space out, I think that's going to be really interesting. And I get their money plan. I understand what they're
Mm,
trying to achieve in that space. And look, to be honest, I think it's very good value and I think it's sensible. But that was the thing. I was trying not to get too caught up in it on the night, but that was the thing that was going through my head. I was like,
yeah.
do I really want to go on there and subscribe to another subscription? You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
another Netflix and another, is it something else that's going to be direct debiting my account every month? Is that what I really want?
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
what I was, really struggling with. And I didn't want to sort of, say that too much and sort of take away from what they're building at, because that's not really the point either, is it?
No, no, no. And as I said, I loved listening to it. I do think at its core, it sounds amazing.
Yeah,
Like
it's very
the
clever.
features and the more people they have on the platform, the better.
Yeah,
Having even something as simple as one free sale, a free taste every month, or a free sale, you get 5 with a free account, you get 1 free sale, not per month, just one. Because it's got that point of if I want to try and sell a card, I'll create an account and sell it, but I can buy as many cards as I want. But it's that temptation. You've got to dangle the carrot. You can't say pay for the premium content and see how you go. You've got to dangle it.
yeah, okay. Or maybe there's like
That's
there's some halfway point, right? Because
Yeah. Like a
um,
promotion, a promo code. If you listen to us on the You Can't Comp This podcast, use promo code COMP for a free transaction. Cross
yeah.
promote. I
Actually, and that's something I didn't say last week. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you here. We were not sponsored, and we didn't receive any financial gain. We didn't even get a free account from the lads. So I think that's something else I wanted to
was
clarify.
going to say, if we got a free account out of it,
No,
I'll
we
feel
didn't.
bad because I'm going to sign up for
No,
the.
no, we didn't, mate. We didn't. And to be honest, I didn't even ask the lads for anything. It was just like,
Oh, look, no, look,
come on
this
and
is just a chance
yeah,
chance to sort of to show what they've been up to. It was really nice
yeah,
talking to
exactly.
them
Yeah,
at the hobby hangout, and yeah, I think it's nice to see people thinking outside the box,
yeah,
trying
hundred
to
percent.
trying to
Yeah,
find a space in the hobby,
yeah,
and yeah, I think it's really it's a positive. It's a huge positive. Good for the hobby,
yeah,
and I'll be certainly giving it a crack. Obviously,
yeah,
as you've just said, we
yeah,
weren't paid to say that, and yeah, but I'll be looking forward to winning that Kobe. That's for sure.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, I don't want to sound
well, you
like the old
can't win
man
it
joke here,
either.
but yeah, exactly. Like, what do you mean it's mine? What are you talking
No,
about?
no, 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 no.
Hey,
If it was a De'Aaron Fox, you could by all means.
oh, you'll give me that one.
I'll
Yeah,
give
yeah,
you that one.
yeah.
I'll look for one on the marketplace.
What do you think that I could have done differently, or I should have asked this, or I shouldn't have done that? Something like this.
I think the interview went really well.
Yeah,
The constructively,
yeah,
I
constructive.
think I suppose we didn't press, like you didn't press too much, and I think that's more of a courtesy thing, which is fine. Which is why I think when I messaged you the next day, I said I'll have questions,
Mm.
don't you worry, but I'll be trying it before
What would you have pressed harder on?
just well, the way the account structure is,
Mm.
like because if I'm going to buy a product, I've got to have a reason to buy. Don't compare it to my daily cup of coffee. You know what I mean? Without telling me what I'm getting. If I buy a cup of coffee, I'm getting a cup of coffee.
Yeah,
Like I
we,
felt like there
I
was a
mean,
lot of
we did
un.
talk about that. No, we did talk about that because remember he said you get the checklist
Mhm.
and you get the trophy room, and then you get that ability to it moves the cards across, and then he also spoke about because you get the free transaction. So if you, I think was it the $4 a month one, you get 5 free transactions or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
So do you know what I
there's a
mean? So
$4 one, yeah.
we did talk about that. Like,
I would have
yeah.
been
What would you have pressed more on?
I would have tried to focus on the free stuff
Okay, yeah.
because
I have to admit, looking back, I should have asked a bit more about that. Yeah.
I mean, like, because and this is no criticism of them, you, anything. I'm just saying they're trying to sell a product, and if I feel like I'm being sold, I'm not trying it. I'm trying to see where my value is.
Yeah.
If it's free, I'm just immersing myself in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm more likely to go. I've seen these features playing around in the sandbox, so to speak, and then I see a trophy room, and I go,
Yeah.
oh, what do I do with that? Oh, I have to pay for that. I'll think about that, and I keep going back. And then I see the trophy room again. I'm like, what's that?
And I think that's why eBay is in some ways so clever, because there's no fee until you until you get your sale.
Yeah, that's true. True.
And the way that how many views you get on a product when you put it on there for nothing, like that is actually quite powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah. And look, I think as a startup, free exposure is a good thing. So I'm glad we could assist them.
Yeah.
In
100%.
sort of the exposure, as well as like hopefully give them a few ideas. Like,
look, I don't think we're some powerful media company or mogul, but I think we should definitely.
I'm a marketing genius. No, I'm joking.
No, but I definitely think they're the type of people that we should be like having chats to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's really where our vehicle could be important or could play a part. Like, I think, I thought that was really good.
And I also think a collaboration with someone, funnily enough, a previous guest, who Veriswap, like collaborating. If you've got a marketplace that you're looking to, there you go, verified by Veriswap.
I thought you were going to say Khalil. That's what I thought you were going to say.
Or you've got multiples, right?
Yeah.
Collabing as these places that have different niches within the market.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. And someone like Khalil to reach out to as well and be like, how can we collaborate to get the maximum exposure for the product?
Yeah.
And something that's mutually beneficial.
Yeah. So sticking in the veins of how we can improve, can we do some redactions from the last couple of podcasts?
Fine. Do you want me to kick off with my muck
I'll go first. That's okay.
Right,
I'm happy to go first. So my one was when we were talking about the Clippers, when we did the deep dive into the Clippers. I said that the head coach was Doc Rivers, which I clearly know Doc coaches Philly, and that Tyrone Lue is the coach of the Clips. And then the other mistake I made when I was talking about that was Isaiah Hartenstein. So he's actually now contracted to the Knicks. So and it's actually really funny. At the time when I was reading through the roster, I couldn't see Hartenstein on there, but for some reason I had in my head that he was a Clipper. So yeah, look, I'm sorry I didn't actually write this down in my notes who reached out to me, but a listener did reach out to me and set me straight. So thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that Tyronn Lue reached out to you and said he wishes Doc Rivers was the head coach of the Clippers given their last couple of seasons. But anyway,
I get the feeling probably Tyrone doesn't listen to our pod, but we can wish. We do have some.
I literally think everybody listens to the pod. So,
all right, what's your confession, Ad?
I cannot find the exact tweet, Instagram, or Facebook post.
Hang on, you need to preface this so people know what we're talking about.
I said there were more Zion cards than Jordans.
You said there was more inserts. Yeah.
So I also, and if we go back to, I'm not going to fact check because I'm not digging through to the exact episode, but
yeah,
I did say I wasn't sure, but I read something along the lines of and made a statement. It wasn't true.
That's fine
because we've sort of had a look at it, and it's the other way around. But
yeah, why don't we talk about what we were presented with? Because I think that's probably more interesting. We're going to make mistakes, mate. I don't think that matters one bit. But I think interesting is
I do think maybe we need a pre-record. All of this is personal opinion and not fact-checked in the slightest. No. We don't have a legal department in order
we do not
to cover it all. So please.
But why don't you tell us what we did? Have you got the stats in front of you? If you don't, I've got them.
I've got photos.
So there's 14,807 Jordan inserts.
Yep.
and there's 5,191 Zions. So
So I'm like backtrack onto
yeah,
what I thought I said and what I meant to say if I did say it, I
yeah.
guess.
And
Um,
the other thing we spoke about off air too, mate, was that it could have been that in the first 3 years of his
mm,
career that there's 5 times more Zions. And that to me is plausible because
yeah,
I think these days there's so many sets, there's so many inserts, there's so many fast break variants and choice
yeah.
variants and hobby and retail and blah, 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 blah. So I can imagine that, that would be the case. But
But there is
anyway,
a stat out there somewhere that says there's more Zions than Jordans in some way, shape, or form,
yeah,
and in some context.
yeah. And look, I think, guys, the reason why it's important for me to talk about this is because I think it's important that we present the correct facts. And the other thing too
Yeah,
is
true.
we appreciate your feedback. So if you're taking the time to reach out to us to correct us, it's
Yeah.
the least we can do to actually address that. So thank you so much, guys, for
Well, I'll
reaching
say
out to us.
thank you, but I'll also say, hang on a second. Clearly, you didn't research enough because there is a stat out there somewhere that involves Zion and Jordan.
Well, look, I'm sticking with the facts ad. So until you present this to the people, the ball's in your court. I'm going to leave it at that.
Or I believe if we scour the entire internet, we'll find it.
You have the microphone when you do,
One
mate.
pixel at a time. One pixel at a time.
Alrighty, our first big board topic of this week, though, is something that holds very dear to my heart, and I will admit, when I started to read this, I was insanely jealous of what this guy's come up with. So, if you want to follow this guy, he's on Twitter at Eric Whiteback, and he's also known as the collectibles guru. And basically, what he's done is he's obviously sat down and had this sort of epiphany moment one day when he's realized that backyard breaks are getting some pretty massive hits, and he has actually put together pictures, and it's not just in NBA. So this is probably where I would definitely fall
Mm.
behind because a lot of this NFL stuff, like I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, I don't really know who these people are, why these cards are significant, but I sort of trust him for that. And then he's also got a lot of the NBA stuff in there. He then went on to actually narrow it down to NBA, and the 4 cards that he used for his analysis was the triple Logoman Warriors, the triple Logoman LeBron James, the Cade Prism Black 1 of 1, and then the Cade Logoman, but with the 75-year holographic Logoman. So basically, what he was saying is, what is the probability that that would happen? To cut a very, very, very long story short, the probability that that would happen is
Yeah, I'm looking at numbers. There's lots of after the decimal place. There's a lot of zeros. That's all I'm
yeah,
going to say.
yeah,
So this thread is, I mean, it's highly unlikely and highly improbable.
point oh 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 850 305 is what he believes is the chance that that would happen. So
It's 1 in 117,605.
how I want to have this conversation with you is, let's have this conversation that it did happen, and let's have that conversation that it didn't happen. Okay?
Okay. Yep.
So let's just say that what this gentleman, the collector's guru, is putting forward is true. What does that mean to you? What are some of the things that contributed to this happening? How did this
If it
situation?
is true,
Yeah. So if this situation is true, how did this situation come about?
what situation is true? Because there's been a few allegations or suggested results from
Yeah,
him.
yeah. But I'm
So
asking that
Panini
as an open question on
are sending
purpose. Yeah.
hot boxes to
Yeah.
backyard breaks.
Great. Okay. And that's one of the points is that National Treasures and Flawless is hand packed. So it's
Yep.
possible to send particular people or particular breakers
Mm-hmm.
boxes that have got good cards in them. That's
Yep.
one of the things. Yep. Good.
Yep. Yep.
What else does this mean to you?
So, well, I mean, they did say there was another post talking about this because it's the value of the products, right? They didn't buy them at the price that they currently are worth. So the millions of dollars that would have been spent is it's value of the product, but it's not what was paid for the product.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So on that point, so just to give people if you don't know this or you don't understand this, what that means is that if you own a storefront or you're someone that
Mhm.
can actually get a wholesale account, What it means is as you build up your account with that company, they'll give you more and more wholesale product. So the question is how much of it that they're breaking is full price and how much of it is at wholesale price? That's what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's got to even get a 0.5% chance of hitting these 4 cards, they'd have to have opened almost 27% of all product. That
Yeah.
means they would have had to get open 30 flawless boxes. Sorry, 30 times that percentage is 1,125 flawless boxes, 5,132 NT boxes,
Yeah.
and over 2,000 Prism first off the line boxes.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
value of that came out to current value is $40 million.
Yeah.
They're saying that would have to get that lucky statistically.
Well, I think that means that if you wanted a 100% chance for this to happen, that's what you would have to pay.
Yeah.
Because one thing that did come out, so Backyard Breaks actually responded to him, and they responded to him publicly, and they also responded to him in PMs, and one person apparently anonymously responded to him. And one of the things that came out of the anonymous response was that they break 12 boxes a day of NT. So I suppose to give some context to that, when you say that 12 boxes a day, that is a massive, massive breaker. I would say that most breakers in Australia, if they did 1 or 2 boxes of NT per week, I would probably say
Mm-hmm.
they've had a very, very good week. These guys are doing 12 boxes a day. So I think just to give that some context, like they're getting through a lot of product. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I won't present the flip side to that. I'll hold that for later. But just to give
Yeah.
some context, they are breaking an absolute boatload of stuff. So just to
Yeah.
give them the benefit of the doubt, the more that you open, the more likely you are to get bigger cards. Yeah.
Of course. Like you you're less likely to get a case hit if you buy a booster pack out of a box.
Yeah. Or if you only do one box out of the case instead of the 2, right? Yeah. Yeah,
Correct,
definitely. Yeah.
right?
So
I'm just reading the response from
what else do you think is at play here?
uh Panini giving just without the knowledge of backyard breaks.
So
Actually
why do you
sending
think, if you think this happened, why do you think they chose Backyard Breaks out of all the breakers? Why do you think that?
socials
Yeah.
because of their social media presence.
Because what, they appeal to young people, they are doing crazy stuff on camera, they make it fun, like what.
Yeah,
Why?
but that's they would have gone the top X breakers. How much is spent with? They break a lot of product, as you've just said, right?
Yeah. So you
That's a
think it's
lot of money going to Panini.
expenditure?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a loyal customer. Simple as that.
Yeah.
We're gonna put the spotlight on these guys,
Yeah. So
and I'm not. And it's been suggested too, and I think in one of the more recent comments or posts, the collectibles gurus said he's gone. If he's They might not know that they're getting loaded product. Hence the reaction when they crack something crazy, right? Like it's not a, and I'm saying it might not be a staged reaction. It also, and it's not necessarily the body, everybody at Panini.
yeah, I'll buy
So
that.
if Panini's involved, it could just be as small as one rogue employee going, let's see if everyone noticed this breaker gets all the good hits
Yeah.
and sneaking stuff. And look, it could just be random. As improbable as it appears to be from the deep dive so far.
Yeah.
Right?
All right.
Um
So all
yeah.
right. So have we presented all of the pros or the flaws for this argument? Can we look at the other side of the argument now?
The underhanded side or potential underhanded
Or
side of
or
everything.
why it wouldn't happen, or
Yep.
or the underhanded side. Yeah, sure.
You have the floor.
All right. So my feeling about this is that what we just touched on then, and I don't want to sort of go over what we just said, but I'll just really quickly touch on that, is that if they are handpicking this company because they're young and they've got a big social media and they're trying to bring more people into hobby, young people sort of get the next generation in, because it's sort of considered like an old man's game.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine, why they would do that. That's totally fine. But at the same time, I think one thing that the collectibles guru, probably didn't maybe touch on is that, like, the 4 cards that he chose, like, yeah, I agree that they're definitely some of the better cards out of all of those sets, but they're not the best cards that you can get. So
True.
there's other really good cards that will come out of those sets too that I think that, would have gone to other breakers, and like a Cade 1 of 1 came out of an Australian breakers, to be honest, is not,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, not 10% of the, the volume that backyard breaks are doing, right? So
Yeah.
I think that sort of conspiracy theory that all the loaded boxes are being sent to one particular breaker, or and to be fair, I think this same sort of conspiracy theory has been threaded before with Leighton cards. That Leighton cards, they're getting all the loaded boxes, and you always see all the good cards coming out of Leighton. But I think if you actually sit down and watch their breaks, like they have some absolutely appalling breaks, and then you just see like the highlight clips that come up in your advertisements, for 1 or 2 seconds, and you see these massive
Mm.
cards. Like you're not watching the other 25 hours of them sitting through busting open these boxes, to get that one card. So I think that's probably
Yeah.
like,
They
my
haven't even got 5,000 followers on Twitter yet.
who's that?
Backyard Breaks. I'm going through their links.
I wonder if that's a medium thing, and that
They've
maybe
got a TikTok though,
they're
and
bigger
they're
on
on
TikTok.
Twitch and Instagram,
Well,
and they've got a Discord. They're very, very forward thinking to the younger market. It's
what's
fair.
their TikTok and Instagram followers? Like, I would guess that it's 20 times Twitter.
Here is my TikTok. Here we go. Let's hope it doesn't have the volume on or
I
any
mean, let's
crazy
keep it
sounds.
real. Twitter is for like conspiracy theorists and right
400,000
wing.
followers on TikTok. All
Yeah,
right.
there you go. Right wing politics and stuff like that. Like
Instagram.
that's
Let's see
Twitter's
what
place.
Instagram says. All right, 100,000 followers. But it is. It's still quite a.
It's a big difference.
That's a lot of exposure.
Mm.
So.
And
Yeah.
so, what's some of the other reasons why this didn't happen? Well,
It's
it's a reasonably large size conspiracy that you need to actually pull off. And you said before that it will be just one person. I think that's the type of thing that one person couldn't do this alone, because that means you'd have to know the person who's packing it and then sealing it, and then you'd have to make sure that like post it out to them. And I think that if there was this sort of conspiracy, that's a pretty it's a very long-winded and well thought out and well planned conspiracy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's far fetched. Like, as you pointed out, like, I get it. He's pulled a Cade 1 of 1 and another Cade 1 of 1. He's got no one else from that draft class.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no, oh my God. Like,
the other thing, when Backyard Breaks did respond, they actually said that not all of their product comes direct from Panini. It comes from
variety of sources.
Other breakers,
Mm-hmm.
Blowout, Steel City, the whole thing. And I have to admit, I actually believe that there's no way that if you're doing 12 boxes a day that you're just buying off one person. There's absolutely no logic to that. And yeah,
I don't know. I just
I do worry, because the size of me as a breaker, I'm essentially like a piece of sand on a beach. Like I know that where my place is in all of this. There's always that kernel of like doubt in my mind. I'm always like, am I actually getting boxes? If you do believe in this conspiracy theory that there are loaded boxes and they go to particular people, that I'm never going to get a good hit. But we've had some amazing cards over the years, and if I can be brutally honest, I think we've done in the aggregate way over what we ever should have done. If you do believe in that theory, right? So, um, I definitely believe that. And the other thing that Leighton said on their thing was that they said some of the biggest cards that they've ever got didn't come direct from the distributor or from their wholesaler. They came from loose boxes they bought from people. And if I am going to believe in a conspiracy theory, I'm more likely to subscribe to that, to be perfectly honest. What I would say is that sometimes I find silence is deafening. So I haven't been able to find a response from Sports Card Nonsense on this. I haven't been able to find a response from this from...
Has Card Porn been on it?
Card Porn have reported it, but they've very highly top skimmed it. I don't feel like they've given it any sort of
They've turned it,
analysis.
they've made it clickbaity. That's about it.
Yeah,
right?
I haven't heard any analysis from the investor group that owns Fanatics. I haven't heard a response from the investor group that owns PSA. Like, this is a...
What does that say to you, though? Does that...
For me, I actually find silence even more incriminating. So...
Oh, okay.
Yeah. For me, that if you do believe in this theory that it is... And again, that's what I was saying to you. I think it's a reasonably, large conspiracy if they did sort of pull this off. It actually sort of implies to me that there's more than one person sort of involved, and that, potentially...
Interesting.
does Fanatics know about this, and are they actually signing off on it because they want the future promotion? And there was also that thing too where that didn't Luba go on to one of the Backyard Breaks feeds and open product with them?
Did they? Yeah, yeah. Luba was involved with a break,
Yeah.
wasn't he? Yeah.
So again, that sort of silence to me is almost like incriminating in that sort of capacity.
I can't believe I'm going to defend them for this, but they they have an insane number of followers on TikTok. They've got this content creation engine that they're sort of using, and
That would be
it could
someone's
just
job,
be
man.
it's just marketing,
Just
right?
like Charlie at Cherry, that he's their media dude. There'll be some
Yeah,
crack
yeah,
dude
yeah.
like that
But
for
but
Backyard
that's what I
Breaks,
mean.
right?
Like backyard breaks, we've just said they meet a certain niche in the market,
Yeah,
and they're very loud on the socials. As far as if something gets hit by backyard breaks, everybody knows about it. So if you're Fanatics, if you're Panini, you know what I mean.
yeah,
You go. Luba goes on because he knows it's extra exposure
yeah,
for him and them. It's mutually beneficial. It's like having a guest come on the show for us. Like Mercury would have loved the people that didn't know about Mercury
yeah, sure,
because of the additional exposure it gets them.
yeah. So
Because
in that argument, are you saying that our podcast we're like Backyard Breaks?
nah, we're fanatics.
Okay.
Come on, come on. All right, maybe we're back in breaks. But what I'm saying is Josh Luba has come in, right? His Fanatics are taking over Panini. So go on to the biggest, loudest platform
Yeah, yeah.
to promote yourself.
Get some light shone on you. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
for real.
And that's like, this is where the torch is being passed to. Look at me.
Yeah,
So that could be as innocent as that. They're just collabing for exposure, for
yeah,
market
sure.
exposure.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's not underhanded, and time will tell because I'm very, very time will tell on things at the moment. But yeah, I think it's
I think
interesting.
there's enough numbers here for actually something to be done about this. Like, I
Mm.
want to hear Panini's response to this, and I think they should respond. That I
Yeah.
personally think that even if they say this is rubbish
Yeah.
and your stats are wrong, and this is why your stats are wrong, blah 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 blah. I think that's
Mm.
what they should do.
That's
Even
fair.
if that's, you know what I mean. Or they should say we've done an internal investigation and you're correct. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
there should be some response. Like, so. Any final thoughts on this, mate, before we move on?
Watch this space.
Sure.
I think the powers that be, like card porn and sports cards nonsense.
Yep.
If there was more to it, they'd be investigating it harder.
Yep.
And I don't think they're being silent because they're covering stuff up because that's not their style.
Yep.
I think if card porn gets wind of it and it does stink, it'll be plastered.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not about the powers that be not being vocal. It's about the ones that are normally loud about injustice not paying it much attention as at present.
Yeah. Okay. So
But
look,
yeah.
my final thought is, I think that this was put together quite well. I think there is some assumptions in his statistics, and I think there is some. It's not 100% perfect, but I think it's done well, and I don't think he did this directly for clickbait. I think he put a lot of thought into this. So, very well done to him. A couple of weeks back, I was actually talking about on one of the break feeds I was doing, I was sort of spitballing, what are we going to talk about for the show? And one of the things I've always wondered about was how many boxes of NBA hoops is there, or how many cases? How many boxes is there of Prism Hobby, and how many cases? And so I'm not going to lie to you. I actually sat down for probably half an hour and tried to work it out, but I was like, I don't think I've done it right. I need someone smarter to look at the numbers. So when I saw this, I was like, oh my God, this guy is like, he's done it really, really well. I think doing it on smaller sets is probably a little bit easier. So for example, if you look at Flawless first off the line, the way he's laid the maths out on that to work out how many boxes there are, like, that's actually really easy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then it also highlights, I'm going on a tangent here, but at the same time, it also highlights why first off the line should be so expensive. Like, when you look at the print run of that, even compared to Flawless, which says,
Yeah.
100 or 1,000 times more of Prism Hobby compared to, say, Flawless Hobby? Like,
Yeah.
it's quite
For sure.
eye-opening,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah.
It's
Yeah. That's
yeah.
my final thoughts. Congratulations. I'm jealous. Eric Whiteback, you did a beautiful job, mate.
Good job. And look, this will be the expose that lands your career if it is something bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
Shall
going to
we?
do some listener questions.
All right.
Change
You
of
can,
pace. This is
do you
from
want me,
Instagram.
you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll do the first one. This is from
Oh,
Christopher
wait,
B.
they're all to you. Oh, wait, no. The second one says, "Hey guys."
That's fine. Hey,
Yours just
Russell.
says,
Hey,
"Hey
Adam.
Russell."
Just firstly, I want to say how much I enjoy the podcast. Thank you so much, Christopher. Any kind words we love, don't we? Just like,
I do. I joke and say I assume everybody listens to the podcast, but I'm really humbled to
yeah,
see when we get
yes.
a lot of unique listeners and the people that are writing in. No
I'm
one's
always
actually done
shocked.
it by email yet.
I think we had one email.
We got an email?
I think we did, yeah.
We haven't dedicated the episode. Maybe we should dedicate the 50th to it.
I think the person said don't do it.
Oh.
That was my recollection. Anyway, we're segueing.
Anyway,
As someone getting back into the hobby,
to
it's been a
Christopher.
great listen. Things have changed quite a lot since the 90s. Just had a query regarding grading. You may have covered this on a previous episode, so apologies if you have. When do you know if it's worth getting a card graded or not? Some cards look great but aren't worth going to the cost and effort. Is the best way to follow the market and see how much a grade versus Rory's? What is the cheapest way to get a card graded? Most grading seems to be quite expensive, like $30 to $50 a card, so it may be a risk if it comes back an 8. Any tips on to know if the card is a 9 or a 10? I guess you learn from experience. If it is covered in an episode, please let me know which one and I'll listen to it. So we actually haven't covered this explicitly, so this is a really good question, Chris.
Yeah.
Adam, why don't you go first, mate?
Well, it's grading sort of obviously different. Great start saying things have definitely changed since the 90s.
Yeah.
But so the cheapest we've talked about, we had Khalil on the other week and options like the PSA bulk submissions, like what is it, $30 a card to get them graded?
Yeah.
I could there are some cards I would send in there and I would be bumped up straight away because of their value. I guess if you look at the card, what's the video? Sorry, I'm at the Lane from 130 Point.
Yep.
Has actually got a couple of videos on, well, old YouTube videos on how to actually assess your card. And this is really getting like bright light on it, getting right up and close and personal with the card to see if the surface is actually in good condition. And obviously, if you can see flaws under a spotlight, then imagine what it's like when it's under a microscope.
Yep.
The key thing that anyone that is going to send a card off for grading will look for, and sometimes it's overlooked because the corners look amazing, the edges look amazing, the surface looks amazing. If that centering is off, that's your key. The first thing you'll actually notice, a lot of people in marketplace scenarios are looking for raw cards as long as they're centered well.
Mm-hmm.
So my advice would be centering is key. Centering can knock a grade down a couple of points very easily.
Yeah.
And it's the most
initially
annoying
visible
one. But it's just like, if it's off center, you're not getting a 10 for it.
Yeah.
If it's noticeably off center, you're not going to get a 10. So the surface is probably the one where you're not 100% sure on, because they do look at it pretty damn close.
Yeah.
Corners are easy to sort of get a feel for, and the edges are relatively easy to see if they're in good nick. But surface and centering are the things that probably catch people out with their grading.
Yeah. So there's actually two parts to this question. The first bit is some cards look great but aren't worth going to the cost and the effort. Is the best way to follow the market and see how much are graded versus Rory. So this part of the question is actually, this is a very, very individual question. And in some ways, we actually can't answer this. So if the card is for your PC, the best way to do it is to look at the different grading companies and then think, how do I think my card is going to be best presented? Do I want the forensic label on it? Do I want the HDA label on it? Do I want the BGS label on it? Excuse
Yeah.
me. Do I want the PSA label on it?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the thing for me. If it's going for an investment and an investment only, I actually don't think there's any real debate about this anymore. 90% of your cards should go to PSA. The only instance where you should consider sending a card to BGS would be if it's a thicker card. For example, like a Flawless or NT, something like this, because
Hmm.
they tend to grade a bit more favorably to that. And also the buying capacity doesn't seem to be diminished in that space. So that's what I would
Okay.
say about that. If you're looking at getting card done the cheapest way, because you've also mentioned cost here, well, I think in Australia there's a company called Platinum Grading, and if I remember correctly, at their stall at the Hobby Hangout, I think they offer grading for like $20. So in terms of getting a card slabbed, what that means for the card's
Mm.
future resale and how people in the community value the grading of that card, I think that's up for debate, and I think that's something we probably should save for another day. But
Yeah.
it may not increase the value of your card as you were expecting it to. So again, that's something else you need to consider. In terms of tips of it, I think everything what Adam said is really good. There's the three things I would add to that is that bigger breakers will often have connections. So, for example, Brian Forsman in America, if I pull a big card, I'll message him. He has like a guy that will look at your card for, I think, $3 or $5 American. And then he'll say, I think this is worth sending to grading, or I don't think it's worth sending to grading. So that's one way you can do it. My younger brother, Dale, he's excellent at doing it. And I don't know the name of this tool, but the little magnifying glass that the
The ones that jewelers use.
yeah, so
You know
he's
the
got
ones
one of
that to
those.
look. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he literally just sits there and goes over the whole card with that, and that's how he decides whether his is worth sending off to Grady or not. And he's actually got a very good hit rate. So, if you know somebody that can look at your cards for you, get them to do it, or start practicing yourself. The final one that I'll say, and this is a little bit out of the box, but it's actually excellent. I would say this recommendation is excellent. So forensic grading, their whole spin on their company is that they're open and transparent. So actually what they do is they do whole walkthroughs of their business, and they actually sit there and show you how they grade cards. The other video that they did too is they graded their card and then they sent it off to PSA and BGS. So I don't remember seeing the follow-up video for that, but I think to have that sort of level of transparency or comparison, I think
Yeah.
that's pretty powerful. So that also gives you another example of how you can look at your cards. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's my answer to that question, Chris. I hope that helps you, mate. And
And once again, just thanks for writing in. Like,
yeah,
we really appreciate it. It's great to have something to have a bit of a chat about, and hopefully we help you with deciding which cards to send off. And hopefully you've got a couple of gem mint ones there that, I don't know, our friend Khalil might see at some point and send off grading with PSA.
yeah, hopefully that'll be great.
Yeah.
Alrighty, you happy to do the next one, mate?
I am. So Timothy Lynn
Yeah.
wrote in. What platform was this? Was it Instagram as
Also
well?
Instagram, yeah.
Also Instagram. Hey guys, just recently got into your podcast and have been loving it. Been especially loving your talks about the low mid-end stuff with cool sets to collect for people who aren't paying more than $100 a card.
Yep.
In New Zealand, the market for low-end cards is pretty rough because
Yep.
you end up buying so many low-end cards and paying shipping $5 you don't need. You pay $5 for something that, you really don't need a low-end card that ending up as a $10 card. So
Yeah.
you're actually doubling the price by paying shipping.
Yeah, because half of it's shipping. Yeah.
Yep, half of the shipping. It's getting to the point where I'm considering buying from Aussie and just wondering if you could lead me in the right direction. Maybe someone who enters Hornets or someone who only enters Bulls breaks, as he PCs both LaMelo and Lonzo Ball. Don't forget there is a third Ball brother in the league now who is with the Hornets, by the way.
Actually, he got waived today.
Was in the league for the Hornets. Thanks for the fact checking there, Russ. That was great.
I was on the toilet today and it came up on my Twitter feed. I was like,
God.
Poor guy, he got waived. Yeah.
That's going to be my Instagram feed tomorrow morning, I reckon. Be like, bye-bye. See ya. Oh, well. It was fun while it lasted.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jeez.
well. Not long enough to get a basketball card made, probably.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, happy to sell off the base and inserts. I almost never collect parallels unless it really catches my eye. Also, if you've got any other recommendations for places to buy cards from other than Facebook groups / marketplace or
Yeah.
eBay, I'd be super keen to know.
Yeah.
Sorry for the TED talk. No, don't be sorry. Timothy, thanks for writing in. Firstly, yeah, buying a $5 card and getting slugged with $5 shipping,
Yeah. It's brutal.
it sucks, doesn't it?
Mm.
It's just not a good feeling at all. I actually I did this with a board game the other week. I paid $40 for the board game and paid $60 postage on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not fun when you get stuff from overseas, and if the local market isn't all that I don't know, big with regards to the hobby, then it's harder, especially when you've got a very specific PC.
Yeah.
As far as other places, I guess the Facebook marketplaces are where a lot of the transactions happen. However, last week we discussed a product called Mercury, a company called Mercury, who are
Yeah.
going to have their own little marketplace. So look, that might be a platform to jump onto the free platform
Mm.
to buy some cards from their marketplace as it grows. I wasn't an intentional segue, but that's definitely a place where you might be able to purchase cards for. The other thing is, I guess you can go in some breaks.
Mm.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So the way I read this question is it's a two-part question. It's about collecting information, and he's asking a question. And the other part of this for me too is the relationship building side. So I'm sort of going to answer this question by not answering it, but also I'm going to answer it in two parts. So I think part of your problem is that you live in a country where there's not a lot of transactions happening, and also too there's probably a little bit more going on across the Tasman, and I definitely do understand that. But I would also say maybe part of your problem too, Tim, is you just haven't built up enough relationships, because there is stuff
Mm,
happening in the New Zealand market and there is stuff happening in the Australian market. It's really about you sort of tapping into that. So I would probably just say to spend a bit more time, searching on Facebook for groups. When you get on those groups, start going into when you see a post and just engaging with it so people start to see your name.
yeah,
I think the other thing too is that a lot of pages these days, when you're a new member, you get that sort of new member emblem. And I think sometimes that's actually a little bit of a red flag for people when you're then going on and, doing a whole bunch of deals when you're new. So sort of,
yeah,
get past that sort of stage, build up relationships. And the other thing too is ask people to stash your cards. So what I mean by that is find someone who's doing regular sales. So one of the people that probably comes to mind for me is Luke. I won't use his last name just in case he doesn't want me to, but Luke does, sales regularly, and he doesn't post his cards out to me every week. He'll actually hold them. But how I manage that for him is I always pay for my postage up front, and I say, do you mind holding them for your next auction? And then when the next auction happens, if he's happy to hold them for me again, he'll do that. And, I combine the postage into that. So, we had that sort of trust relationship where I'm very happy for him to hold my cards, and I've got no problems, with him doing that. And he sells all the time. So I don't think I'm causing him any great inconvenience. And when he's like, I've had enough of holding your cards, he just posts them out to me because I've already paid for the postage. So I think that's the type of thing that you can do. In terms of your suggestion about going into breaks, 100%. And that's a real thing. So any breaker that you go in with, Tim, will hold your, well, I can't say any, I can't speak for all, but I would say 90% will
a
be
lot
very,
of breakers. Yeah,
very happy to hold your cards. And the interesting is because I have a couple of New Zealander customers, and actually the postage when you buy a satchel and you're doing a big bunch, I think it's about $18 or $20. So you can easily do like 50 or 100 cards for $20. So
yeah,
that's actually quite economical when you think about it, like per card. It's not cost
yeah,
prohibitive at all. So again, and I think that's a relationship building thing, mate. I think you need to get in there and have a chat to breakers and reach out to them, say this is my situation, this is what I want to do. And
yep.
my final thought about this is actually two thoughts. My final two thoughts about this, another thing to sort of unpack a little bit differently, is ComC. So I know that's in America, but essentially ComC is this huge warehouse of cards, and all the cards are being posted to ComC. So you go in there, you buy all of your cards, then they sit in your digital account, and then when you want to ship them all out, you combine the shipping on all of the cards and then post them all out to you. So whether you're shipping from America to Australia or America to America or America to New Zealand, it doesn't really make that much difference.
Yeah.
So that's something else you could consider too, Tim. And
Yeah.
then the last thought is actually, so in America, there's like shipping companies that you ship all your cards to them, and then they stash them for you, and then you message them, say, I want all my cards posted out at once. And actually,
Yeah.
it's a very economical way to do it. There's different ways. Some of them do like a yearly subscription fee. Some of them do like, they just sort of charge you within the postage that you pay, and then also they might do like a scanning fee. I'm pretty sure one of the companies does that.
Yeah.
As far as I know, that doesn't actually exist in Australia. So is that actually a business opportunity for some young hustler to offer that? And
Well,
I
this
don't
is
think Ross
what,
will be
yeah.
angry when I say this. So Ross, the guy that I do USSCA with, he's been talking about doing some type of consignment service in Australia. So
Yeah.
Ross has spoken about it. Tim's sort of kind of like leaned into it a little bit here. Maybe there is enough demand now in Australia for some type of consignment service in Australia.
Yeah. The Australian market is growing, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that'll be my response to you, Tim. I hope that wasn't too long-winded.
Look, I think it's a great idea. Like reaching out to us, we appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a
But
great
just
question.
interact with the rest of the community.
Yeah.
You'll find like-minded collectors. You will find people that are more than happy to part with their ball cards, be it the Bulls variety or the Hornets variety, I'm sure. But just get chatting. We're chatting in the community. You don't always have to be transacting. Just merely talking about basketball cards in some of these marketplace style groups.
Yeah.
It's not always sale thread after sale thread.
And you will start to see people who are that you can see that they're reliable sellers and that you can trust these people. And I think that's part of it too, is finding people that you enjoy dealing with, and and they'll help. Look, most people will help you out.
Yeah, and if you're looking for a real laugh and really want to get chatty, go into the DNF page and buy someone's progressive.
Are we morally? Are we setting this guy up for failure here?
Maybe have a read through the DNF page before you post any comment. Just don't write the word sold ever, unless you intend to buy. Anyway, yes.
All right. Quick hitter. So this is one of my this is my first complaint. I'm going to moan here. So this is some person who has made custom cards, sent them off to a grading company. They've come back as a graded Gem Mint 10. So the grading company is called Gem Grading Company. And now this person
all their cards are Gem.
Is trying to sell them. It's this is so mind-boggling bad. I don't even know where to start.
Can I ask though, is Gem Trading Inc. actually a company?
If they are, all I can say is
the slab fake too. That's what I mean. Like, is not just the card. There's a little bit of comedy in that.
No, it's actually not. It's so ridiculous. I'm gonna Google them.
Oh my god,
they're actually a company.
No.
Yeah, and they do custom slabs.
Can you put custom Tem Gen Mint on it?
The only thing is the label that they have on the website doesn't look like what they've got on this particular post that I'm looking at. So it's entirely possible that not only has this person made a fake card, he's also made a fake slab. Like, you can't put it past someone that is going to go with that much effort.
I don't put anything past people these days. Yeah. It's like, what the actual...
I don't know. Look, to be honest, I just think this is just the utmost...
I love the fact that he's like, I'm sure there'll be a lot of negative comments, so if you're interested, shoot me a PM.
Anyway, let's move on.
As a quick hitter, fake cards, fake news, don't worry about it. Let's move on. Don't pay it any attention. It's not worth it.
So when I put this into the run sheet, I actually put this in last week. So this is a little bit of a coincidence, but 2 posts from @EricWhiteback in 1 week. But it would have been 1 and 1. And also, to be fair, the other one was topical. But anyway, 2 posts from him. So
from the guru.
He's the guru, the collectibles guru. He's got this picture of an absolute table load of Luka PSA 10. They all look like base to me. He
Yes.
said once worth over 175k, this collection of Luka is now worth $27,500. What is your thoughts in this space, Ad?
I think somebody did a similar post mocking this with Kevin Durant. But anyway, yeah. Yes, there was a peak. We all know this, and then this is not like it's not fake news. Yes, cards spiked,
Yeah,
and the market correction is real.
yeah,
Yes, it would. There was a point in time where that pile was worth over $175,000 because none of them are silvers, right? They're all base. Cool. Now it's worth 27 and a half. The market has corrected. At its peak, that was what those cards were worth. The question is what was paid for that pile of cards.
yeah.
That's the information that's not there, right?
Yeah, and I agree with that too, because if you tried to sell every single one of these cards at the peak, that would actually push down the price. So, you can't, have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah,
I think in that
and
space.
it's like me putting a bunch of cards up and going, at their peak, this was worth 500k. Now it's worth $25.
All right, so you don't read
I'm
too
not
much
talking
into
about
this.
the V Friends cards at all. But anyway, but do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
at their peak, V Friends were selling for 10 grand a box. We should
Was
check
it?
in on it. Something like that. It was crazy.
Nah, it wasn't 10 grand. It was like 1,000, wasn't it?
Something ridiculous.
Oh god.
I'm not even going to do the read. No, I can't do it.
Let's just redact that
Yep.
straight away. Anyway, V Friends was selling for 1,000,000 times more than what it should have been. We can safely say that, can't we?
Yes, way too much. And now they're worth jack.
Look, so my 2 cents on this is that it's a massive decline. I don't think you can deny that. But so there's two things that really come to my mind with that. I think people have sort of come around a little bit, and I think the general populace is more educated, and base is becoming a lot less desirable than what it was a couple of years ago. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, sure.
The other thing that is really sticking in my head about this is it actually now time to buy Luka? I really think at the moment Luka is a good buy. And, we talk about, we love prospecting and we love getting a bargain and, blah, 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 blah. But Luka is down. And he's actually
Is
down
he?
a lot on some cards. Yeah, from a couple of years back, man. Like,
All right. I've got, for everyone playing at home, I've got Luca's base up on the screen.
yeah.
On Card Ladder. In the last 3 months, and this is all with our free account, reaching out to Card Ladder, if you're listening,
Yeah.
we'd love a premium account to look at this more deeply.
Yeah.
But the PSA 10 is actually up 4.5% over the last 3 months.
Yeah.
So it's steady. Like, I get it that there was a spike and it was crazy, but they're 345 US.
So I was buying Luka about a month before the hobby hangout. And I think that goes outside of that 3-month frame, but he was down on some stuff about 30, I want to say even 40% on some stuff.
He's down 5% in the last 3 months on
some
silvers,
even more,
though.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, it depends on the card. And that's the other thing too. We're making very broad strokes here, but anyway, my general feeling is that, let me put it to you this way. There was cards that 1 year or 2 years ago, I would not have even looked at and thought, oh, that actually seems like a reasonable price. I would have been like, that's so far out of my league, I'm not even going to put that card into my mind so the seed can be planted in my head that I should buy this card, And now I'm looking, I'm like, actually, like, it's possible I could put this together and, buy that card. So, I really think the heat has come off him. And we spoke about this last year in the playoffs. Like, he was declining last year in the playoffs, and there was no real good reason for that. If anything, I thought he was going to be, going up in the playoffs. So,
and this is the thing. We'll see. Season is about to tip off, so it'll be interesting to see what Luka does after the first 20 games of the regular season.
Yeah. And look, and I think just to admit my own bias here, this is my internal belief. So my
Mm.
spin on this is real. I'm just feeding into my own like internal monologue here, and I'm just going into like a into a wind
Yeah.
tunnel and just talking to myself. So I'll
Mhm.
admit that like fully, but I've found an example that does also reinforce my own idea. So Luka Doncic red, white, and blue PSA 10
Red, white,
last
blue.
sold at $660, and the starting price was $743. The high price for that was $1,150. So even in the last 3 months,
Mm.
I still see value in that space. I actually
Definitely.
see
There's
I
definitely
see a
value
lot of
there.
value there because
Yeah.
now we're going like on a deep like tangent here and a slight deep dive. But in Pokemon how PSA 10s are about 5 or 10 times higher than a PSA 9.
Mm-hmm.
So the grading numbers at the moment, how many cards are they grading out a day? 5,000, 60,000. I'm just trying to pull up
It's
the gem. All right, so
the gem mint. Yeah.
PSA graded 50,000 cards yesterday, right?
Yep.
So this is what I think is going to happen in this space. I think that eventually we're going to get to the same place where Pokemon is. There's going to be this massive gap between 10s and 9s in NBA. Because at the moment,
Okay.
it's kind of like a percentage-based thing. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's going to become like a multiplier thing. So where I'm going with this is I actually think 10s are going to become more valuable in the future because
Okay.
I think they're going to sort of like lead away a little bit from 9s.
With regards to that, though,
Yeah, talk to me.
can we go back to the fact that he's talking about a base Luca?
Yeah, he is, but
and sorry, my next question is: at what point does the population count for PSA 10 Luca base cards
yeah.
go over 20,000? Because we're currently at 18,817.
Well, if they're grading 60,000 cards a day, I would say
It's
it's
not
not
long.
if, it's when, right?
When?
You
Yeah,
know,
it's not an if in my eyes, no.
yeah. Well, the
But I
pop's already
still
up to
agree with you
it's nearly up to
on
19,000 out already.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's pretty like it's a high population count. But as far as I just feel like that will hit the value, but that's the base problem. I think silvers and I think other variants are the things that will hold value. And you're very right in saying that the tens will surpass. But I just think base is where a, a base graded card is not going to
I
go through the roof, so to speak.
I'm not sure. I do think that 1819 the print run
Mm.
wouldn't be nearly as much as 1920, and then 2021 I think that's when I think everyone can pretty well acknowledge that's when the print runs just went absolutely
Went
bananas.
bonkers.
So,
Yeah.
are you still catching this dude at a time where the print run, you know, isn't that wild?
Yeah. Yeah, true. It's
I think on a base PSA 10, if you get it for a good price, I think even now, it's gone down so much. I mean, these were selling for definitely for 600 US.
yeah. But that was crazy high. Like that's the Faruga rule, right? Faruja. Sorry, Josh.
I think so. My assumption on Luca is that he is going to be like the next Jordan's not the right word, but say the next LeBron in terms of hobby and
Mm,
collectibleness. So I think that's where sort of my head sort of thinks with Luca too.
mm.
That's what I was saying before about, as much as I love prospecting, at some point you have to kind of put your stumps in the ground and say, well, this is the dude that I think is going to be the one. And,
Stick to your gun.
in my mind, why isn't it going to be Luka? You really need to, provide me with a good reason for him not to be. He's got everything to be, extremely successful NBA player, and he's miles ahead, in terms of his age, where other athletes were at that, point. So
Mm.
I feel pretty safe. For me, he's like a very much a blue chip stock. This guy.
Look,
Yeah.
like I agree, Luca is a safe bet. I
Yeah.
just think base is not where you want to be looking for your value.
Yeah.
Long term, I'm sure. Like don't see Luca base card PSA tens becoming worthless.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
what happens in a spike is we see prices spike.
Yeah.
And people were paying future prices at a point in time. They were worth future prices.
Yeah. So I suppose what you're saying is I shouldn't be really comping back to a time when that time was too crazy. I
Yeah. Yeah.
It still happened though. It's not like I'm
It did.
comping against
Look. Yeah.
a hypothetical situation,
Yeah.
So yeah,
It did happen. And the reason I'm referring to it as when people played future prices
yeah,
is because I think those prices will happen again.
yeah,
The market is just corrected to its normal trajectory.
yeah.
So if
Alrighty,
you've got those, hold them because they'll be worth $600 one day. You've seen the spike. We're going to get back there.
yeah. I
Um,
I put up
yeah.
on socials a couple of weeks ago about the eBay authentication system and process, and the
Yep.
reason I did is because I had my first experience with it. So
Oh, lovely.
we didn't get a lot of responses back from it, so I
Yep.
can't really feedback anyone's user experiences. But if you do have them, please message us, or if you can find the post, or even if you post on one of the weekly, whatever, we don't care. Just tell us. We want to hear. But Card Porn did come up with this, and basically what they've found the loophole around this is that if you sell a group of cards, they then aggregate the graded lot. So if you've got 3 cards in it, that 3 cards doesn't get sent to the authentication process. So they've already, people have already found a loophole on that, and then and in this instance that Card Porn was highlighting was that they were actually selling fake graded cards. They were selling fake PSA cards. So
What
that
the?
is an absolute loophole.
I'm reading through these. It's going to get interesting.
My experience was that I found the experience very irregular. So what I mean by that is I actually bought a very high value raw card, and I bought it from Probstein, and for some reason that wasn't sent to the authentication. It should definitely have been sent, but it wasn't. And then I bought a much lower value card that was graded, and then that was sent to authentication. So if I
Wow.
if I had a choice, which I don't have a choice, but if I did have a choice, I would have liked the raw card to be sent for authenticity, and I would have preferred that the graded card was just sent to me quicker. So
As I said, I applaud the system that eBay is trying to implement, but I still think it's fraught with danger, and this has
my
just clarified that.
my biggest question is who pays for this? Nothing is.
Everybody that uses Feebay.
Yeah, but nothing is free. Like, but is it built into the?
Of course, it would be. They'd be rolling in cash for it.
I don't.
And I reckon there's a deal. I reckon there's got to be something.
I don't doubt that eBay's cashed up, but what I'm getting to is that in the future, is this going to be an additional fee that we're going to have to pay? And then who has to
Authentication fees?
Yeah, and then who has to
Yeah.
foot that? Does the buyer have to foot, or the seller?
Ooh,
And
probably
if the seller has to, are you allowed to then on charge it to the buyer?
Yeah, well, that was the thing. Well, all right. So, devil's advocate, because
Yeah, of
Card
course.
Porn's already gone and said what a disgrace this is. Especially with eBay's response. But anyway, it'll get too much for eBay. Too many cards going through it. Too hard to go through this process, and it'll be, as the buyer, do you want to pay for authentication?
Like an opt-in.
Yeah.
So I would have opted in with like bells and whistles and flashing lights for that raw card that I recently purchased.
Mm-hmm.
No, nothing. No choice. No blah blah blah. Nothing. And
I just think that's how it needs to happen, and that might mean that there are some people that are going to get shafted because they want to save a couple of bucks. But it's like insuring postage. If you pay for authentication,
I really like the concept of it, and I think that it actually is a good initiative. But like what the boys from Mercury said last week, it doesn't matter what system you put in place. Someone's going to be
someone will break it.
Yeah, someone's going to be smarter than you and work it out how to loophole it, and it's already been done, right? So
Correct. Yeah. Well, look, and eBay said, like, they've given out what their controls are, and people have gone, "You ripper, bundles done."
Yeah.
So what's the next step of the process? So
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. Time will tell. It's gonna literally. I'm gonna have to get a T-shirt made now.
You are this close for me banning you saying that phrase. This close, Adam.
I'll just be like, front of the watch.
Alrighty, Manu Ginobili. If you want a Manu Ginobili autograph, now is the time to purchase. Manu Ginobili stickers have emerged in Obsidian, and people are selling them. So just get onto eBay if you want one. They are 100% out there. If you would like to apply your tinfoil hat, do so now because I'm about to unload a conspiracy theory.
Oh yeah, let's do it. Let's get the tinfoil out and Russell, you have the
So,
floor.
one conspiracy theory could be is that the reason why all these Ginobili autos are coming out now is that he signed a bunch of stickers years ago, and now they've been sitting in a vault. Maybe Panini's been sold. Maybe they're transitioning into the next phase of their company. Maybe Fanatics is taking over, and they've asked them to, close up a few small problems. For example, maybe they've asked them to sort out their redemption process and fill people's redemptions with points or other similar
Wow.
valued autograph cards.
I got an email the other day for one that I'd forgotten I'd emailed about.
Yeah.
And it says your redemption is now tickets being closed. You've now got 150 points. I'm like, cool. What was the card? And if I can't remember what the card is, it probably wasn't really worth worrying about. But yeah, it's interesting that they're starting to tidy things up.
Yeah.
Can I throw a ridiculous conspiracy theory about the Manu Ginobili autos?
Let me get my tinfoil hat on 1 second.
Good.
Yep, sweet, go.
All right. So, new team is going to be started in Vegas, and
Yep.
LeBron wants to purchase it. I think
Yep.
Manu wants in.
Really?
Yeah, he's just like, Panini, I'll sign. Gimme, I'm going to make some money. He's going to buy a team. There's nothing serious and nothing that substantiates what I've just said, by the way.
Yeah.
I was going to say a
I'm not
gambling
sure.
debt, but
I'm not sure about this theory, Ad.
it's revenue raising on Manu's account. He's like, I'm bored, I'm retired. Just give me some cards to sign.
I mean, anything's possible, right?
Cash grab. He's got a gambling problem. I don't know. He wants to buy a team.
So, Obsidian to 99 sold for 73 USD. Like, this stuff is collectible. Auto to 35, 107 USD. A 2003 for Upper Deck on-card auto, it sold for 151. Obviously, that's an older card.
Yeah.
And there was one that I was bidding on was a Prism card, and I think that went for 100 USD. It was a Prism Fast Break.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
Obsidian.
I think there's two parts of this. I think he has a real sort of like cult/niche following.
Oh, the 17-18 Prism Fast Break.
It sold for $84 US. I lied to you.
It's over 100 Australian, so.
Oh, yeah, well over. The exchange is so bad at the moment. But I think the other part of this too, like being pragmatic, there's not a lot of this stuff floating out there, and he hasn't signed a lot. So if you are a Manu fan, like you do need to pull your big boy pants on, and you do need to do it now because they will dry up. And also to, how much more Obsidian are people going to be opening, right? It's not going to...
This is true.
Not going to last forever.
We've got before we go into the next topic.
Yeah.
I will just say in the Facebook feed, Mark Walton has been asking about Chet.
Has he?
Yeah. Hey boys, let's talk anything Chet.
Wow.
PSD Chet.
Let's go, Mark. We are going to be talking about Chet. And we could play this two ways. We can say, Mark, we're talking about it because of you, but the truth is, it was already in the feed.
I was going to say I did put in the chat that we were that it was coming up. Yeah, it's on the run sheet, so it's next on the chat.
Let's go.
I believe Mark Walton posted. It was a few days ago.
Yeah.
In NBA Trading Cards Australia, just inquiring, got my card back from grading today, and just seeing if anyone would know a rough idea of what it may be worth. Yeah. Not for sale, not for trade at this stage. That was 3 days ago, so it might be for sale now.
Very well could be.
To which you responded, there is a lot going on here. Chet isn't currently signing, and by reading various snippets and between the lines, it's possible he won't be signing for a while until his contract is resolved.
With Tops, that is, when I say his contract.
His contract, yeah. When I saw Chet on the run sheet today, by the way, I was like, isn't he injured? Are we just not?
Yeah, he's injured.
And then I remembered the story, the Tops nonsense.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a pre-rookie card. Yes, it's unofficial. And yes, it's platinum graded.
Yeah.
And he's out for the year, but all of these things are irrelevant. People love rookies, speculative purchases, and he's a freakish talent. Now, there aren't a ton of Chet autos out there. Who knows? Maybe he's the next Dame Lillard or Kawhi. But who knows? They've both only got a handful of autos out there.
Or the next Ginobili, right?
Yeah, we just spoke about Ginobili.
Yeah.
Now, Chet isn't currently signing, so I think it's a collectible item. So congrats on the cards.
Yeah.
Grading issues aside, this is your aside. This can be fixed if you or the buyer really wants that red, white, and black label. Send it off to PSA. Do a crossover grading option. Problem solved.
Yeah.
So we're chatting about we're chatting about the card now. What are your thoughts on the card, Russell? I think you've said a lot here.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think like most of my thoughts is there, but I think for me, the really interesting sort of takeaway from this chat thread is actually no one gave him an answer of how much the card is worth. And to be fair, neither did I. But what people did do is like completely rag on Platinum's grading. And I think part of what they were ragging on them about was the resale value. And so, I mean, that's like, that's just boys will be boys, right? I think that's what that sort of comes down to. Look,
Yeah.
I actually did a little bit of comping on this. I think this will go around for the 300 to 400 Aussie mark.
Yeah.
And that's as we stand now. And I think that this is a really tough one, actually, because I was thinking about this. Like, if someone gave me 400 for that, would I take it? And probably the answer is yes, because there is some risk that the price on that actually would go down.
Yeah.
Because if Wembanyama goes to OKC next year, I can tell you who we're not going to be talking about, and that's going to be Chet Holgrem.
That's true.
So
he's also injured, so he might not even come back in the first place.
No, I'm saying, I think it's fair to say he'll be back in 12 months. But the day that he walks back on the court, he's also walking back with his 7'6" point guard. No one's going to be talking about Chet. So,
case in point.
There is that sort of risk. The flip side to that is there is a real risk that Chet doesn't sign again. He actually took a lawsuit out to stop people buying or selling his cards on eBay. So,
yeah,
I mean,
it's that lawsuit stuff was crazy.
That's quite dynamic in the sort of the trading card space. I personally find that quite unusual. So look, this is a really tough one to me because I think there's a lot to love about this card. And if the only thing that you've got to hang up about this card is that it's platinum standard gradient, I mean, geez, like just fix that, man.
Yeah,
it'll cost you $100. Flick it off to PSA. Problem solved. Honestly,
bang. Yeah. Well, and the question is, what would PSA grade it if it is a 10? Like, what would they charge you? Would you get upcharged? What would the perceived value of it is?
No, I think if you paid the $100 grading, you'd be pretty right.
You'd be fine. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's.
Yeah.
Can you get it in bulk prices? Can I pay?
Not crossover. You can't do crossover unless you crack it. Unless you crack it yourself.
Yeah, no.
I don't have the testicular fortitude to be cracking a card like that.
Yep, that's completely reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah, good pickup though. Like I actually think it's like, well, yeah, if he doesn't sign and OKC are talking about him next season because they're unlucky and don't get the number one pick.
Yeah, that's the other lane.
The Chet redemption arc where he's still in a legal feud with people over him not signing with anybody, not signing cards. It could be a very rare card. Could go up a lot, but it's a hell of a gamble.
Is that a buy, hold, or sell for you, Ad?
Hold. Not for sale, not for trade.
Yeah. Look, I would probably sell it. I think. And that's also just the way that I'm building my PC at the moment. I don't want to keep talking about, I'm going to leave him unnamed, but there's a lot going on in his space at the moment. And that's just, it's a real hit or miss card, that one. So, yeah, beautiful, absolutely beautiful card. So,
it's nice.
I think we've got time for one more thing. What do you think?
Probably one more thing. We probably need to give a team some love next week.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we should miss that, but we should definitely do pocket change.
Well, I was going to say, all I've got for pocket change this week is a bunch of pins that I got from PAX, and they have nothing to do with basketball.
Okay.
So
okay.
I didn't really. I was board gaming last weekend.
Well, I've got two, because one for this week and one for last week.
Sweet.
Yeah, and I'm on a bit of a Markel Fultz bender at the moment, so bear with me.
I would not know what a Markel Fultz bender felt like, so I'll.
Well, okay, hear me out, right?
Yep.
Very, very young, coming out of college. probably went to an environment that wasn't that nurturing to him. And now that we're looking back in the rearview mirror, there's not a lot of people that survived out of Philadelphia and, left that place thinking, oh, that was a great, solid working environment. Like Brett Brown, who most people would consider, a top bloke, it ended very badly for him. And I don't think it should have.
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say. He wasn't really set up to succeed. Ben Simmons, I don't really think he's walking away from Philadelphia, thinking, look, I'm sure the list would go on. And I would also put Fultz into this too. In some ways, though, him being traded from Philadelphia to Orlando was almost like a mercy killing. It actually gave him the chance to,
Mercy killing.
well, actually gave him the chance to reboot. And he's still a young guy. He's a young guy. So for me, yes, I know he's old news in the sense that he's, 17, 18 draft, but I still think there's enough time for him to, get his stuff back together. He played so well at the end of last season. I've actually been watching predominantly Magic games in the off season. That's like how tragic I am. I think he had some moments, honestly, that he just looked absolutely fantastic. And I think he's still maybe not in 100% athletic shape, but you can also see that he's built up his body and he looks a bit sturdier. He's broken his toe, so he's going to be out for, a bit of the season. But that's the type of injury that I think is, I mean, look, at some point you have to kind of say, the guy's injury prone, but I would also say too, it's a little bit freakish. So I'm not that fussed about it. So the two cards that I've highlighted is a PSA 10 Prism rookie card. It's a green. It's sold for, including postage, $20.50 USD. So that's probably around $30 Aussie at the moment. So what's the compromise here? The compromise is that it's a green, and that's it really. Other than that, it's it's a perfect card. I was very, very happy with that pickup. I've got no regrets on that. And then the second one, Mosaic Silver PSA 10, again 17-18 rookie card. This is not a joke. $12.50.
Hang on, can you repeat that?
Sorry, $12.50 US cents. So that's probably like
$20,
maybe $17, $18.
$18, yeah.
Yeah, but still, like,
Good value.
You get for $18 these days?
You can't pay for grading for $18.
You cannot. You cannot pay for
you know
grading.
What I mean? Like even bulk submissions, you have to pay more than that.
Yeah, so he's quite down at the moment, and I think part of there's a lot going on with this guy, but I think part of it is it's the off-season swing, and then he's got another injury, so
Jesus,
you got nothing.
I've got nothing. I was going to say I was collecting pins at PAX and was playing board games for them. I haven't really. Work's been flat out, so
no, that's fine.
I've been in sort of in nerdy gamer mode for the last 7. It feels like perpetually a couple of weeks, but there's been work in between that. Yeah. But I will have something next week.
It is a fractured toe. Okay, that's. I was gonna say that's good. It's not good, but it was good because I got the information right. We won't be called out again, Ad. Alrighty, final thoughts, mate, before we sign off.
Final thoughts. Wow, that was a big episode.
It was.
I think next week's probably going to be just as big because it's the big 50. 50 episodes.
Yeah, it's been fun, Ad.
And it's the start of the NBA season, so there's going to be heaps to talk about.
Yep.
Can I preface that by saying that Jordan Poole just signed a massive contract extension? So let's see what the Silver Prism Jordan Poole movement looks like next week.
I can tell you my breakdown is going to be very short about Jordan Poole.
Wait a second.
We'll save it for next week, but
I'm starting to look up to see if it's going to be a good episode or a bad episode.
All right. While you're doing that, I'll go through my final thoughts.
Yep. Is that blank? Your final thoughts is just blank?
No, I'm just trying to think what was like the most important thing of the episode. So I think my two big takeaways from this episode was the stats from the backyard breaks. I think that was really well put together. And I think that's actually created a lot of really constructive conversation. Whereas, sometimes a lot of feeds sort of go down that sort of negative thing. So I really enjoyed that. And I think the other one probably that's maybe angry is actually the right word, is that graded cards that then got sent to a grading company. I just think, we talk about these grading companies and how that you should grade with PSA and, what's wrong with giving these other grading companies a chance. It's stuff like this, to be honest, It really f***s up these like smaller grading companies. Like to me,
Yeah.
that is just, I actually can't put it into words how bad I think that is. It's
You
so
know, I think
problematic
that's
for people that don't understand.
yeah.
And to be honest, even to me, I look at those and they look perfect. I actually wonder why aren't the companies out there suing the pants off this dude? Like if that was Disney, they would have
They would have a
been in
law. They'd be
prison already.
slapping him with a lawsuit.
Yeah, like for real, right? Like, why is this,
It's harder. It's harder. You know why? Because the hobby's not regulated. You know what the 50th episode is gonna be titled?
You can call it whatever you want, Ad.
All right, I'm gonna spoil it right now. It's gonna be. Do you remember when Jordan Poole PSA 10 silvers were $1,000? Ha ha ha! But he's up 2% from the last 3 months, but it's not $1,000. I'll tell you that.
All right, let's just hold that thought for next week.
My final thought is thanks to all the listeners.
Yeah.
That was like it's fantastic just having like all these the new people that are coming writing into the show, interacting with us on Facebook.
Yeah, for real.
It's great. It's bigger than it's growing at a rate that I wasn't sure it would grow at. And it's really humbling just to sort of to be getting so much positivity from the community. It's great. So yeah, keep writing in, keep chatting with us, fact check us, give us some topics to talk about. I'll go out and do some homework and we'll get some pocket change for me next week. But yes, thanks again, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
See you next week.
Thanks, guys.